Facade Christ here at the Missus, and today I'm going to be talking about Jeffrey Epstein, human trafficking, politics, and the myriad of facades that we have to deal with as civilians just looking at the state of the world. For starters, the most recent of information that we've been looking at is the conversation of Palm Beach Pete and as well Elaine DeGeneres with Ghislaine Maxwell. Also, I call her Ghislaine Maxwell because she's fucking gross. Now there's a lot to unpack here, so listen up. Now, starting off, Palm Beach Pete is not the only lookalike to Jeffrey Epstein, and Jeffrey Epstein was desperate to clone himself and as well was desperate to find lookalikes of himself because he thought that he could live forever.
I've always thought Dolly the sheep was cloned in 1997. If you can clone a sheep, you can clone a human being. Actually, people are getting like their French bulldogs cloned for like $60,000. But it's estimated that you can clone a human being for $1.5 million. And I knew when Dolly got cloned, the sheep, there's got to be megalomaniac billionaires out there that are cloning themselves. There's just got to be. I would not surprise if Juliette Bryant's ovaries were getting harvested because those sick, twisted megalomaniacs are cloning themselves.
You think that these people are cloning themselves?
It wouldn't surprise me. Unfortunately, there's going to be probably little Jeffrey Epsteins running around in 20 or 30 years.
Didn't he actually talk about spreading his DNA?
He did, and he was also into transhumanism.
Now, for me personally, I do support transhumanism. I do believe it is something that humanity needs, but I also believe that Antichrist does not deserve this technology. That means I only believe that the followers of God, the true genealogy of Christ, deserves to be immortal.
Did you report on an episode called Frazzle Drip?
Yes.
And is Frazzle Drip something about cutting off the faces of children under a pizza parlor, or what is it?
And a little roof.
Now, the House of Cards here, which for those of you who are not familiar with this issue, which is no longer a conspiracy in the public's eyes, but rather it is an epidemic of sex trafficking, human trafficking, and inhumane leadership in places that should not be there. And Donald Trump is a very repulsive example, very sorrowfully, of how the American people have been wronged by people who wanted to, I would say, make a corporate government out of human suffrage.
I was asked about 3 or 4 weeks ago whether or not, by a very good friend of mine, whether or not I'd go to New Hampshire. That's turned out to be now a much bigger deal than I had ever anticipated. And perhaps, I don't know, I am going. I made the commitment to go. I made the commitment about 3 weeks ago. And I will go, yes.
You will go, even though you realize now, in just stepping foot in that state, people are going to presume things.
Well, they can presume whatever they want. I have no intention of running for president, but I'd like the point to get across that we have a great country, but it's not going to be great for long. We're going to continue to lose $200 billion a year.
And so looking at Donald Trump's what would be career is kind of a shocking ensemble of ping pong, where he says one statement, goes back on that statement, and goes completely the one opposite direction of that statement.
The presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we
in,
take their oil?
You go in. You're
How do we go in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
You're going to have a war, and it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations, and I mean grab it and keep it, and get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
What is this?
Being ripped off.
Can you tell me what Frazzle Drip is, Phil?
Yeah. Frazzle Drip is a video that was on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder on his desktop titled Insurance. And the laptop in question was taken during a investigation into Anthony Weiner. And the video in question, Frazzle Drip, was in that folder. And video depicts a woman who is the same height, build, haircut, facial features and attire as Hillary Clinton. And there is a second woman who fits the same description to Huma Aberdeen, which was Anthony Weiner's wife. And in the video, which looks like the basement of Comet Pizza in Washington, D.C., it shows both of the females in the video laying different children on top of ping pong tables, which are in the basement, molesting those children, frightening those children with weapons, and then drinking something, which would line up with the theory that it is the blood of those children for purposes of extracting adrenochrome.
There have any files that were on Anthony Weiner's laptop in a folder that was titled insurance, life insurance, with a zip file titled Frazzle.
This is way outside the scope.
Ruling.
This is way.
You hear this child screaming, and they take off the face, and Hillary Clinton puts it on her face and goes to the child. You see, the child is all flesh, and then the eyes pour out, and this child sees her own face on the face of Clinton. I will never forget that image, and I never the scream. And goes to the child.
Within the scope? Is this within the scope, Mr. Chairman?
The Chairman rules that it's not within the scope.
Mr. Chairman, based on what you said in the public hearing, is this within the scope? Mr. Chairman, is this within the scope?
Go off the record. And goes to the child. And goes to the child.
And so we all have our own stories to tell in these situations, I suppose, is what my grandmother used to say to me growing up. Karen used to say, everyone was molested. Everyone had a time when they were abused. There's some days when I don't really know how the story started or what my grandparents did. One of my earliest memories when I was like 2 years old, just a toddler in Deer Lodge, I had remembered my grandmother put a gun to my head and threatened me, saying if I had told anyone that he raped me, he would shoot and kill me. In more particular, he said he'd kill my entire family. However, as well, I had attempted suicide because I had felt that it was my fault that I wasn't strong enough to stop human trafficking. It was that same year that I had threatened my grandfather, who had raped me when I was 2, with a gun to my head with a sledgehammer. The incidents made me homeless. I was having homeless men stalk me in the streets, I noticed. Some of them tried to fight me. I shaved my head. I learned things about life. It had drove me to begin to research a lot about crime and how I felt that what happened to me was connected to bigger crimes. My grandfather has a barbed wire tattoo on his arm. And one of the things I remembered thinking about him when I looked at his right arm with the barbed wire tattoo was that, you know, Jeffrey Epstein in Palm Beach Beat has this very tattoo in pictures. My grandparents are connected to a last name that is connected to a hotel chain that started in Denmark. However, growing up, I noticed that my family would separate ties with this family chain and then reunite and then separate, then reunite.
He's charming. He is able to convince people, so he tells everybody what they want to hear.
So how do you know this?
That's what's true. He
has a sense of humor. He can be funny.
Right. His ability to sell. It's very much like Clinton. Both Bill and Donald have the ability to go over to a fat, ugly woman. So you are the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. So you probably never had a scalp reduction. You stand up with the same male pattern woman with a real eye. There's not able to be horrible human being. He has nasty things with best friends flowers. Everyone who He first tries to gain your trust and then uses it to benefit. That's how it works.
Have you ever had a personal relationship with Donald Trump?
What do you mean by personal relationships?
Have you socialized with him?
Yes.
Yes. Have you ever socialized with Donald Trump in the presence of females under the age of 18?
Well, I'd like to answer that question, at least today. I'm going to have to assert my 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendment rights, sir.
And so one of the most common things you'll see when looking at the Jeffrey Epstein files is plants, industry plants, individual plants, people that are put where they are supposed to be put for the convenience of criminal racketeering or criminal organizing. This makes the propaganda that people digest and the files that are within the Jeffrey Epstein files a much more controversial conspiracy at times, not just because of allegations, but as well what is the preparation of evidence. At times, it seems like evidence not only is just not documented, but as well it can be destroyed at times. And that's the most disturbing part about what is looking at these more gruesome crimes. The abuse can leave you hollow as a person and even make you want to destroy parts of yourself you like. Many people choose not to speak out because they'll be judged by society, and oftentimes people just don't want to hear what they have to say. And so this takes self-preservation to fight, to conquer this issue. Rather than allowing your abuser to completely destroy you, you have to preserve yourself. You have to stand for yourself tall.